Welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ, your premier destination for election news and information. We are proud to present a brand new series designed to help you discover each candidate's platform. Join us where all candidates from all parties are welcome. Every candidate, every party, no filter. Let's jump in.
Hi, and welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ Presents Candidate Spotlight. And with us today is Jadon MacCormack. As most of you know, I'm Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud, and this is our new series for candidates that we are pushing out. So welcome, Jadon. So you're running for state rep in the 50th District in Connecticut. Now, I'd like you just to tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, my name is Jadon MacCormack, and as mentioned by Linda, I am running for state representative in District 50, which is considered the quiet corner in the state, which is northeastern Connecticut. We've had quite an amazing turnout where people are supporting from all over the place in the state, but specifically our region, they are mainly Republican and conservative, and they have been for many, many decades until as of recently. And we've had an opponent that really does not vote properly, voting 98% with their party, which of course is with the Liberals. And we want to see some more conservative legislation passed, as we've been seeing so much has been targeted towards gun rights. We even see the homeschoolers getting all riled up because they're trying to go after them. And I believe that there should be some changes made. And obviously today we're going to be talking a little bit about just making sure that there's safety in the voting. We don't want to have any issues with election fraud, and there's a lot to do with that, especially even in my region, because I would be representing half of Mansfield, Connecticut, which a lot of people may know that UConn is in Mansfield. And there was some interesting factors that were happening there where people just live there and they vote in droves, and there's a lot of regulation around there. So I think there's going to be a lot of great conversations today. So I'm looking forward to having those.
So the towns that you represent in Connecticut would be Ashford, Brooklyn, Eastford, Hampton. You mentioned Mansfield, Pomfret, and Woodstock. So for those of you who don't realize it, that's the 50th as far as a state rep here in Connecticut. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions on where you stand on different things. As far as the gun rights here in Connecticut, do you think they've gone too far, not far enough? Are they just right? How do you feel about that?
Right. Gun rights are so important to people. You know, at the end of the day, it's for our protection. Recently, the legislation has been going crazy in the state. I actually was working there at the Capitol, the state Capitol, from this beginning legislation session. I was working in the Energy and Technology Committee, but you can really see all the different big bills that are passing while working there. And one of them is they're trying to ban Glocks. Now, Glocks sound like a dangerous type of weapon that many criminals may use of some kind, but they're actually the most basic handgun that most Americans use, especially in Connecticut. And so banning that would be a huge stipulation upon the citizens, especially in my area where it is more conservative leaning, where people do own most of the guns within the state that aren't criminals, and they really should have their rights. Just think of the mother that may just be at home, or somebody else, right? There's many people that just need protection, and I would never want to strip away the rights of somebody that may own a gun, that have been perfect abiding citizens for quite some time, and then they can't use the gun that they purchased. So I think there's a lot of crazy regulations that are coming upon our state at the moment. We need to fight back against the huge overstepping that we've been seeing by the state and our legislators, and that's a big deal.
Oh, it absolutely is a big deal. I mean, that's our Second Amendment rights, the right to bear arms.
Yep.
Now, another question I wanted to ask you was the homeschooling. Do you think the parents should be the ones in charge of the decisions, or should we have the state sticking their nose into it?
Yeah, the problem that we're facing right now with the homeschools, where the homeschoolers, where they're getting overregulated, right? They're trying to have them associate with the Department of Education. They're trying to have check-ins and everything like that, which sound good in a essence. But what's really happening deep down is they're trying to regulate what they're being taught, trying to regulate their schedule. They're really just trying to be a satellite public school. That's really what they're trying to do at the end of the day. And I've been in talks with many homeschool co-op groups, people that have really good issued out education for homeschoolers. And even my father, I was personally homeschooled. I'm probably one of the very few candidates in the midterm elections in Connecticut that was homeschooled. And my dad, he has a master's in education. He has taught at many different schools in his life. And I had a great education. And having that type of oversight is just bizarre. And what we're seeing right now is them trying to really put the push to them. And it's sad. I really want to see homeschoolers have a lot of liberties as they've always had, and there should be no try to overstep on them and no types of horrible legislation that goes against what their fundamental rights are as citizens of the state. So I want to be probably one of the most strongest advocates for the homeschoolers that Connecticut has seen in a long time.
Excellent. So how do you feel about the religious exemptions for vaccines?
Mm. Now, that's a big one. Okay, so there was this huge thing that happened in the state of Connecticut, which most people, if you're from the state and have been keeping up on politics, maybe those that are watching the show, you're seeing right now Connecticut trying to pass all these things that I've been talking about. We have the religious vaccination exemption. They're trying to revoke that. They're trying to regulate homeschoolers. They're trying to take away the gun Glock rights, and it's really just a down the board type of bill passing that they just want to get through. They're trying to railroad it through. And as we've seen, they're trying to eliminate the religious vaccination exemption for all Connecticut citizens. Now, this has been something that was passed in the late 90s in our state where people, such as COVID-19, people could use a religious exemption if they don't want to input something into their own personal bodies. If they still want to have a government job, they want to still go to a public school, it's their rights. People pay for their own public schools in the system, right? And even if you don't want to go to public school, you're still paying for it, so you should at least have the right. And there's everything in between when it comes to trying to work in the healthcare industry. All these different things, you want to have your own decision be made if you want to have employment or be associated with some state agency of some kind to be able to have your religious exemption for a vaccination. Now, I feel personally that the COVID-19 vaccine was pushed too quickly and had a lot of issues with it. And we kind of already see the results where there was a lot of heart attacks from it. And of course, they're trying to get better at it. But there's those types of things that we've recently had that really should be considered when you're trying to revoke another exemption that is the stronghold for people with their religious freedom. And so this is also a part of the whole stipulation of them trying to crack down on religious people in the state, where they want to make their own regulations they can control, and at the end of the day they're trying to strip away our liberties. So I definitely want to be one of the ones that support keeping the religious vaccination exemption.
Right, because we don't want them taking over more of our lives. I mean, there's a lot of us out there that knew with the COVID shot not to take the jab. I'm one of them. There was no way I was having those chemicals put into my body. And the fact that the state of Connecticut is trying to force absolutely everything. And we're seeing what's going on with the vaccinations, not just the COVID-19 vaccinations. You really need to know what the science is behind it, that it's proven. And that's not something that I have any confidence in at this point. So I am so glad that at least you would be fighting to keep the religious exemption in place. I mean, I believe people should be able to make their own choice. Now, as far as the economics and jobs in the 50th district, did you see any challenges in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, so the part of our state is very rural, right? The District 50 that I would be representing, which I have a very good chance of winning since the last couple cycles, it was split right down the middle, 50-50, and I'm just going to have to push a couple hundred more votes and I'll win it. But I really see our area as one of the farm agricultural districts. There's the ones that have just a regular 9 to 5 job, nothing crazy out there, and at the same time, it's not like a big industrial zone either. And so you really have a lot of hometown type of positions, maybe waitresses or waiters and other types of lawn mowing companies. We have a lot of those types of positions that we need to have filled. And they're hard workers, and that's the type of people that I'm around. I was an Eagle Scout, and a lot of people that graduated in my troop, they went on to do just regular jobs like that, as I described, and they are good, outstanding citizens. Now, a lot of the types of jobs that Hartford is trying to push, they're trying to overregulate those small types of jobs. It's really something. And they're trying to overtax them. As we know, Connecticut is really overdue for a whole overview of the tax system and how we can go ahead and make it cheaper to live in. Our electricity bill is actually, with all the public benefits, as we're seeing, that's like an added tax in a way. And so I really want to see the positions that we have in our rural region at District 50 be something that's substantial, something that, even though they're everyday jobs, they can be something that people can work and still stay in the state. And I don't want to see people moving out of state. Since in my region, we border the state of Massachusetts and the state of Rhode Island, I don't want to be seeing people move out of state, just crossing the border over. These are good jobs and good citizens and people that really need to be part of our community. And making things more affordable and also having better positions available are always my priority. And that's why I'm out there. That's why I'm talking to businesses. I'm the one that is having those conversations with people. And that's what we need, is the communication factor as a representative. And all that is to say that I want to see Connecticut grow, especially in my region, but the whole state in its entirety.
Well, one of the other questions I wanted to ask you, and by the way, it is beautiful up in your neck of the woods. I mean, the farmland, everything, it is just absolutely beautiful up there. The rolling hills, the narrow roads. But anyway, I wanted to ask you your stance on the abortion laws here in Connecticut. Do you think they're okay, or should there be changes, or are you staying neutral?
Okay, so this is the big thing, right? We have to make sure that we go back to the conservative ideology. My part of the state is very conservative, and with their policies, they should go back to what they want people to represent them as. Every person that I talk to, they really want to have a proper system that aren't trying to kill babies at the end of the day, right? Abortion laws are very important to make sure that there's nothing trying to go out there and have these abortion clinics set up. That's a lot of people don't understand, is that they actually set up abortion clinics. And just like right neighboring me in Willimantic, they have several of them, Planned Parenthood, that's only for abortion. And that's insane. I really want those to shut down. We really want to make sure that our region has no abortion clinics, and that can't be a position that people want. It's just common sense. At the end of the day, there should be morality in place.
I'll tell you, it's very refreshing to hear your comments on a whole variety of different things, from the gun laws to abortions with that. Now, in order for you to get elected, obviously we have the election. So how confident are you in the Connecticut electoral process?
Now, that's something that we have to keep our eyes on. There's never going to be a time that we should turn a blind eye to the whole process of them submitting ballots and then going to the voting booth. We want to make sure that everything is kosher. And for me, with my confidence in it, I want to make sure and double check and be the one that's boots on the ground observing and seeing that there is no corruption taking place. The problem is that if you look away, there's something going to happen eventually. And so it's always good to be the one there observing. Now, there's, of course, for my confidence in me being elected, I'm very sure of it because at this point, everything's going in that direction for my side of the state. I'm one of the only people that are actually campaigning in my region. My opponent isn't even door knocking or talking with voters. He goes to these meet and greets and that's it. He just has them come to him, but I'm the one going to the people. And so we should really see that be taking place where you actually have representation, where somebody actually cares about the individual. But yeah, at the end of the day, we have to make sure that everything works out properly when it comes to voting, and also I'm a big one on IDs. You have to have a ID to vote. I can't believe that there's actually parts in Connecticut that let you vote without having your ID on hand. It's very sad. And then also with ballot stuffing, you go ahead and have these ballot harvesters and then they stuff them in the ballot boxes, and you have to make sure that's not happening either. And it's just very important to keep an eye on.
Well, since we're based in Connecticut and Fight Voter Fraud's been around now 8 years, we do a number of different things, including doing the analysis on the voter rolls. And I can tell you, Connecticut voter rolls are a disaster, an absolute disaster. So one of the things that we'll be able to do for you is we will do an analysis on your 50th district, and we'll make sure we send those to you so you know where the issues are. And there's a lot of issues. Again, we only want U.S. citizens voting. You only want people who are over 18 voting, and the ones that are qualified within your district. Now, the challenge you're going to have is that you have part of Mansfield, which is where Yukon is. So with that said, there's a law that allows students to vote either from the town that their school is in or where they actually live. And the funny thing that we have found is that there's a lot of college students that think they can get away with voting in both. And so that's one of the things to keep an eye open for. Another thing is you're absolutely going to need volunteers. You're going to need eyes on the ground, especially on election day within the facility itself. So I'm guessing this is your first time that you're running?
That is correct.
I love that your ideas are fresh. And like you said, the last thing we want to have happen is you're going out and seeing that so many people are supporting you. And then you find out that some hinky stuff has gone on. So that's one of the things you need to keep an eye open for. The other thing is making sure people get out to vote. So I think anybody who goes out voting, they should use what we're going to be calling Operation Buddy System. If you go to vote, make sure you bring somebody else with you. We need to have a big turnout in the voting because then it's actually you voting because you never know if somebody might be voting for you. So those are just some of the issues that are out there. I did want to ask you a question, and I'm hoping you're familiar with the Carter-Baker Commission of 2005. That's when President Jimmy Carter had put together the commission based on all the anomalies like the hanging Chad from the earlier election in 2020 and a lot of the issues. And those issues are basically the same ones that we have right now. It came out during when the Democrats were in office. So I'm not sure how you feel about that or want to give a kudos to the Democrats for coming up with the idea, but they need to follow through now. Your thoughts?
Right. Yeah, of course. At the end of the day, the Democrats, if they have a good idea, we should listen to them. You know what I mean? And yeah, and it's a perfect thing that they have come up with voter integrity in the past, but now they've shifted away from that, where they want to have their own rule. They want to create these obscure ways of voting without voter ID and all these other things. And so we should go ahead and go back to the good ideas and focus on that and adopt them.
So, is there anything else you would like to let the audience know about you and your campaign before we have to go?
Absolutely. At the end of the day, I'm very glad that I'm able to be in this conversation. We have a lot of people out there that aren't getting involved, and it's important that people are able to have that voice back. And I want to say is that my opponent actually ran unopposed last session, the last election, that is, where he just won by default. And so I don't have a primary this year because nobody in my area is running either way. And last time nobody ran, and so he just won. And now I'm trying to change that where we have representation. We should have a choice. And so I want to make sure that people can reach me. If you want to follow on Facebook, Jadon for the 50th, you can go ahead and do that. You can reach out through there, follow my posts and everything. And then you can email me directly, and I'll give you my phone number when you email me so we can have a conversation. But let's go ahead and keep that communication high, so that way we see the state changed, and also little by little it's going to affect the country. So we're going to see a big change with that down the road too.
Well, I want to thank you so much for stepping up to the plate, and good luck this November. We really hope that you get elected. Thank you so much for coming on, and good luck.